Back from the Swiss Alps, you're listening to Southern Fried Philosophy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast, where it's two guys take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy, and you, the listener, are getting a degree in common sense. We are broadcasting live from the HB5 studios right here in beautiful downtown historic Concord, North Carolina. We've got a great show lined up for you, as always. On the show today, we got some How You Be Doing, wacky news, and a doubleheader of guests of Shellee Cole.is and Christian Picciolini.
Picciolini.
We'll figure out the last name. But before we begin, let me go ahead and introduce you to the second half of this flaky biscuit. That's right, we're talking about the pride of Anderson, South Carolina, 2016's honorable mention Uber Driver of the Month. Give it up on old mic number one. It's Mojo!
Wow. Good to be back. Talking about Swiss Alps. That would be kind of nice on this hot day.
Oh my gosh.
Muggy day of North Carolina.
It is awfully hot.
And speaking of Swiss, our guest from Life After Hate just came back from Switzerland.
Did he really?
I don't know if he smuggled any chocolates back in, but we'll have to find that out.
That'll be the question of the week right there.
That's right. Hey, thanks for tuning in once again. You can find us on southernfriedphilosophy.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. But yeah, if you go to Facebook at Southern Fried Philosophy and go to Twitter's and Instagram at SFP Radio, still trying to give my daughter the delegation of our Twitter and Instagram, but I'm kind of worried that she'll tweet some kind of Nicki Minaj video or something.
We could only hope.
Yeah, please also go to Google Play, iTunes, or Stitcher. Subscribe, give us a review. We appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you like I ask you every week, Mojo, how you be doing?
What burns my biscuits, buddy?
Oh, here it comes.
Actually, this is from the whole hospital doctors fiasco.
Okay.
Why do doctors' clinics make you have an appointment time? You know what I'm saying?
That's a great question.
I mean, you sit there and you arrive at 11 o'clock. It's supposed to be 11:30. You know, you're sitting there reading the Reader's Digest from 1987 or, the Aquarium Life magazine from, the early 90s. The address has been cut off. Pages are half missing. The addresses, like the doctor brings it from the
addresses. Yeah, I thought you meant the actual dresses, like in.
No, the addresses. Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, and then like maybe 12:15, they'll call you back, and then you sit there as they eat their lunch, till 1:30. So I just don't understand that. I mean, other day I spent right at 6 hours at a doctor's appointment.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, grueling, painful, hunger pains. Hangriness.
You couldn't even eat for the 6 hours?
The only thing I probably could have done, like the elf, and ate the cotton balls or something. It was nothing in sight.
You couldn't have like a pizza delivered to the doctor's office?
I probably could have done that or Uber Eats since it was downtown Charlotte. So that was that's just why even have a time or make it time out. Like we'll make it. Be here at 11, but you can arrive at 12.
How about show up on time?
My time is valuable too. That's all I can say.
Yeah. How about just in that appointment, tell the old lady to stop talking about it, and we need to move on.
That's right. You get 5 minutes, bam, wham, bam. That's it.
Wow. I'd maybe go a little bit more than 5.
Okay. 6.5. So how you be doing?
Oh, living at the Biggun Manor. Inside is great. However, I opened up our water bill this past week and realized that the Biggun Manor cabin has got a leak in it.
What a way to find out.
Yep. Went through 6,750 gallons of water and didn't even know it. So
there's probably some Greenpeace water advocacy group here.
They're going to get mad at me.
They're going to probably come find you now.
Yeah. So we had a plumber come out and look at it. And then basically I don't want to handle that. That's too much of a handle.
Oh, wow.
So we're not going to do it. So I'm having another guy come out, probably to tell me something similar. And then we'll rent the backhoe and just nail that sucker down and and just be done with it.
Holy crap.
Yeah, the whole Biggun cabin might be gone.
Yeah, I think we mentioned before, and this cabin was built like
1890. They say
1890 by allegedly by some like pre-Boy Scout type
cult
clan tribe something. So it's pretty cool, unique, but I'm sure it probably has some wear and tear on it after the years.
Sure, yeah. So that's one thing, and then Amazon. So it was Amazon Prime Day last week, and I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and buy a toothbrush because I needed one. I left one.
Not a TV.
No.
But a toothbrush.
A toothbrush. Out of everything that was really awesome on Amazon Prime, I ended up walking away with a toothbrush. It was an electric toothbrush. Left mine back in Florida, so I was like, I need to pick one up. Picked one up, and then first keep in mind, when I looked at it, you look at how big of a discount and a deal you're going to get.
Right.
So first and foremost, $179 is the original manufactured suggested retail price.
Right.
Who pays $179 for a toothbrush, for one?
Evidently some people, because there's a market for it. So.
But mine was knocked down to a whopping 60.
Wow.
So I was like, I'll just pick it up.
Sure.
You know, and then I get it and realize, hey, this has got Bluetooth on it. Like, again, why do you need a Bluetooth toothbrush?
You play like, you brush your teeth to tunes or something? Like,
no. When I downloaded the app just to see what it would do, and
right.
It's just basically a countdown timer of 2 minutes.
Oh.
Knock yourself out,
No, it would be
Chief.
kind of cool, like if you could, like, if you're need kind of a pick-me-up, you can put on some,
sure.
Metallica or something like that.
Gotcha,
Or
in the morning.
Yeah, or if you're feeling kind of somber at night, or something to kind of relax to, you can put on some, Barry Manilow or...
get you in the mood, like brushing your teeth, hey, it's some hello time, But
I probably wouldn't choose Barry Manilow for hello time, but maybe Barry White.
But then I see the same toothbrush on a commercial, and I'm saying to myself, so I'm dialed into that commercial because now I want to see what they're going to say about it. And 9 out of 10 dentists recommend it. So then I got to thinking, who is that other dentist?
Right.
That one dentist that's always the holdout.
Right.
And for every dental thing that there is, it's 9 out of 10 dentists.
Well, actually, 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this podcast for for dental health. It's scientific fact.
We haven't figured out who that one is, but that's got to be the worst. Are they doing the same dentist, and they're just like that one guy is just absolutely...
He's a holdout.
He's never going to...
Refuses to endorse anything. It could be possible, yeah.
It's just that one dentist.
That or they have a sacrificial lamb every, like the exploding toothbrush, and he can't vote. So,
right.
So he wouldn't recommend it.
And then where would you want that? Where would you not want that extra one dentist?
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, what if that one dentist gets selected for jury duty? Like, that's awful. He's going to hold out for whatever reason.
Right.
He's just not going to go with the flow.
Well, he goes in faking Tourette's. Possibly.
But I mean, that's like the worst thing to have. Like to be that one dentist out of 9 that doesn't recommend brushing your teeth. Like who is that guy?
I recommend a standard old the ones we hand out at the dentist office, that last about a week. Mm-hmm. That's what he probably recommends. He's probably anti-technology.
He's the worst dentist in America. They're like, who is the worst? Let's get that guy, and he'll be the 9th.
Yeah, he's probably like, just go to YouTube, look up how to make your own toothbrush. It'll take you about 27 hours and about $422 in parts.
And real horsehair.
Yeah.
I mean, good gravy. Who is that guy?
I think we need to seek that out. Maybe that's one of those things we need to invest in a PI for.
I would almost do it just to figure out who that guy is. Oh, my gosh. All right, so we're going to go into some of that amazing wacky news.
Ooh, baby, it's making me crazy. It's making me crazy. Every time I look around, every time I look around, it's in my face.
All right, so here's my first wacky news. Melting glacier reveals Swiss couple who went missing 75 years ago. So let's listen up, all you global warming people, and say that nothing good happens. There is a couple that got trapped in an avalanche or a crevasse, some could say. They got stuck in a crevasse, died, passed away. And then with all of the heat and the global warming of things, it revealed this couple. It brought them back. They are intact. They were found holding each other. All of their things were intact, like all their clothes and, ID cards and things like that.
That's kind of sweet, though, that they're holding each other,
Yeah.
because my wife, if it had been her, I would have, they probably would have found her with no legs and arms, because I would have, like, devoured them trying to, keep the hunger pains away.
Right.
So,
I was going to say I'd probably be eaten. But I thought that was kind of nice that they were found.
I think they went out to feed their cows or cattle or something like that. I think is what I read.
Yeah, and normally the mama doesn't go because she's usually pregnant. They said she has like 5 or 6 kids, and finally this one time she wasn't pregnant and says, hey, I'll go out with you. That would be a time to go, right?
Right.
Be like, oh, well, my husband fell in a crevasse, and then didn't come back. So they were all kind of split up, but then, they found him, and they're going to come back for the funeral, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah, at least that's get some closure for that family.
At the end, though, the kid said, for the funeral, I won't be wearing black. I think white would be more appropriate. It represents hope, which I never lost.
So, how old are the kids now? They got to be in their 80s and 90s, right? Because I think they went missing like in 42 or something like that. I think is what the
Yep. And we'll have the article up on the website.
1942 that is.
Yeah, they were missing for 75 years. So the kids are going to be they got missing August 15th, 1942. So yeah, the kids are probably pretty old at this point.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
This is not kind of one of those funny stories, but it's kind of one of those stories that kind of upsets my political views. So,
Oh no.
Postal Service is giving Amazon a huge subsidy. So basically, Amazon has a gift card from Uncle Sam. So every package that Amazon mails through USPS or United States Postal Service, they get a $1.46 subsidy. So
What?
those Prime packages that you're getting,
Oh no.
that's how they get them so cheap and so fast to you, is because USPS is giving them priority and also free shipping. So every other small business owner out there, if you have an online business and you ship, I'd be a little mad that they're getting subsidies. So we have a little small business out of our house.
Yeah.
My wife does. So it's a lot of shipping, and she don't get no $1.46 back.
No.
So it's your tax dollars hard at work.
Can you request to actually have the $1.46 put into your account?
I'm sure they will probably laugh at us about that, just like anything. So
Wow. So have you seen the story about OJ and the cookie?
I've not. I know that he's up for upcoming parole hearing, I think tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
ESPN's going to have nonstop coverage.
Are they really?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
my God. Juice. So an illicit cookie could have cost O.J. Simpson a chance for parole, according to a retired correctional officer who worked in the Nevada prison where Simpson had been for almost 9 years. So the retired correctional officer has come out. He's writing a book and saying what could have happened is O.J., the first week he was there, somebody was giving out from the kitchen. They were giving out free cookies, and O.J. got one of those free cookies. So everybody else goes back to their cell and eats the cookies.
Right.
And except O.J., he's just out in the middle of the hallway, just snacking on the cookie, which you're not supposed to have.
Right.
And then one of the officers came up and said, "Where'd you get the cookie?" He snitched on the cookie giver. He got rid up for having contraband.
Right.
So the retired officer went to that lady and was like, "Hey, listen, you need to not do that. It's his first day here. He's going to not be able to get parole because of this illegal contraband." And so she refused for a while, and then he coaxed her into ripping up the write-up that he was supposed to get for having the extra
So,
cookie.
and I think the original sentence was 33 years
Right.
for the juice, so that would probably be the remainder of his life, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't have gotten parole. And he's only, I think, 7 years in, I believe. So
Yeah.
maybe a few more. I just breezed through the article. So the
Yeah.
cookie did it.
The cookie
If
could
the
have...
If the cookie fits, you can't acquit.
I mean, could you imagine, like, getting a write-up on your first week for having an illicit cookie?
Yeah.
And then that could put you in jail for, like, the remaining, what?
What are they going to do, make shanks
28?
with them, I guess?
I don't know, but it was contraband, illegal contraband. The retired correctional officer said one of his persuading ways to get the lady to throw away the write-up was, "You'll forever be known as the Cookie Monster." So that kind of decided to make her throw that away. So I thought that was kind of funny.
That's a little crazy, because you got to think they could derail his freedom. I'm not.
Yeah.
I hold no opinion on this. I mean, except, the original trial, back in 94, 95, I think, that original trial happened. So, and we're all shocked at that day. But this whole parole thing, the cookie, that's nuts.
So the glove didn't get him.
Right.
The bloodstains didn't get him.
Right.
His whole story didn't get him. The night
riding away
in the Bronco.
White
that
Bronco.
didn't get him. But a cookie got him.
That would be kind of funny.
The irony.
The irony of it, that a cookie did him in. So. Juice.
You got any more?
Oh, yeah. Florida church sends collection notices to members not tithing enough.
Is this not? This is not Babylon B.
This isn't the Onion or Babylon B. So,
wow.
There's a lady by the name of Candace Peterson joined the Greater Mount Moriah Primitive Baptist Church in Tampa about 6 months ago. Earlier this month, she received a collection notice from the church saying she needed to tithe at least $50 a month. Plus, it listed the other fees that amounted to about $1,000 a year. It also said that her 11-year-old daughter would need to tithe $5 a month.
Are you kidding me?
No. The letter, which several members received, said the mandatory minimum tithing was being imposed as an effort to pay off the church's debt.
No.
I'm trying to find what Bible verse that's in, but
I seriously wouldn't play show. I had one of Bobbert got letters from his church one time that says you weren't tithing.
Oh, really?
Like, come on, y'all.
Wow.
Like, for reals? Jesus said you like a cheerful giver. Like,
I guess Bobbert was missing that once every 4 week tithing sermon.
Well, he kept referring back to the 7-year year of Jubilee, where everything was forgiven. He was just, I'm going to wait 7 years and be free. All right, so my next one is, and we've noted on the show how many times I think that you should not have an animal that can kill you as a pet. But a circus handler, 57, is hospitalized with serious head injuries after a camel bit and trampled him. So before I said you should not have snakes, you should not have large animals that will kill you, and now I'm going to add to the list a camel. And a man was airlifted to the hospital after he was bitten and trampled on by a circus camel on Friday. A 50-year-old said that he was the camel's handler at the Lewis and Clark Circus, and he was attacked in St. Charles County Fairground in La Plata, Maryland at 2:30 p.m. Evidently, it was really, really hot. The camel said, I ain't having it, and just attacked the dude and trampled all over him. So I'm going to add that to the list. You should not have a camel.
So a camel can handle Saudi Arabia heat, but can't hold her La Plata, Maryland heat.
Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe. He sustained serious injuries and had to be airlifted to the shock trauma center.
I guess the churches need to look out and maybe change their theme up for the nativity scene.
Right.
Maybe a velociraptor would be a little more easygoing.
Where's Jesus? Where's baby Jesus? Oh, golly. So
all right,
that's a little crazy.
Going on with the cookie theme, 7% of Americans think that chocolate milk comes from cows.
The milk part does.
No, they actually think chocolate milk.
Please, yes. Lord, tell me they don't think that it's the brown cows that make
some 16.4 million Americans mistakenly believe that chocolate milk comes directly from the cow's teats. A study has revealed that 48% of American grown-up adults are not sure where milk comes from.
Are you serious?
While 7% says it comes from the cows. I actually looked this up because I was like, this has got to be.
It's got to be fake.
It's actually a lobbying group called Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy conducted a recent survey. So, I really don't have to read any more of the article.
You've got to be kidding me.
But the biggest shocker is 48% don't even know where milk comes from.
Yeah, y'all. I can't even process that.
I guess they missed the memo in kindergarten.
So you mean to tell me we've got college students coming out of college with $100,000 of debt of school, but yet we can't figure out where milk comes from?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Y'all.
Well, actually, there's actually in like bigger urban cities like Chicago, Atlanta, New York. They actually have classes called lifestyle classes. They actually learn how to use a skillet, over an oven or stove. They actually learn how to use a can opener, a manual can opener.
Wow.
And people actually pay this as part of their skill set.
Like you would pay to go to this class on how to use a can opener.
Yes.
What are we doing? Like,
Obviously, they've never seen a can
Why
opener.
can we not be doing this right now?
Wow.
I would fly there and do it for $2. Cover my flight, and I'll show you how to do it for
That's
$2.
right.
Good night, y'all.
That's where we're at now.
Can I also tell you, folks, you could go to YouTube and figure out how to use a can opener.
Right.
Or a skillet.
I figured out how to fix my air condition on my truck through YouTube this week. But
Did you really?
yeah, there's probably can opener videos on there now too. So at least I don't feel so subhuman now.
Can we just start doing basic human skills videos?
Well, you know, they used to have home ec classes back in the day.
All right, so in fear of getting my man card revoked, home ec was my favorite class out of everything. It was the best.
It had all girls in it.
I learned how to cook.
Right.
I learned how to sew. Like
Right.
those things in growing up, I was like, I could actually use this. Like
Sure.
trigonometry, not really. Like, what am I going to use that for? But I was like, hey, I can make cheese sauce all I want. Here we go.
It's a valuable lesson.
I tell you, that was my favorite part.
I took wood shop before they took all the bandsaws out of the school.
Yeah,
so.
I took wood shop. That was a good class.
Yeah, I think I took home ec for until I got kicked out or something.
Would you make in wood shop?
Wooden ducks.
Really?
It was like a manual duck that you had a stick on it, or you pushed it, and we had we cut out rubber tubing for the feet.
Okay.
It was something stupid we did. It was fun though, But
yeah,
hey, for 7th, 8th grade, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So
I
think we made birdhouses too, or something like that.
I made a rod and reel holder.
Ah,
That was kind of handy dandy.
yeah, no doubt. Unless you don't go fishing.
Right. Yep. My dad would use it for putting sticks in it that he would beat me with. I'm just kidding.
You'll find that switch.
Yeah, right. It was a switch holder.
Yeah. Maybe cigars. Probably work fine for cigars.
Well, the end was a little bit too small for
okay.
cigars.
Gotcha. Swisher sweets. Swisher sweets.
There you go. It's a Swisher Sweet holder. Nice. When we come back, we're going to have Shellee Cole.is. She's a singer-songwriter out of Conroe, Texas. She'll be doing an event here in Concord, North Carolina, coming up this Friday. So
At Red Hill Brewery.
At Red Hill Brewery. We'll definitely tell you more about that later. So you want to check her out, and stay tuned.
Took my love and I took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in a snow-covered hills where the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tide? Can I handle the seasons of my life?
All right, we're back. This is Southern Fried Philosophy, and on the phone we have with us Shellee Cole, singer-songwriter from Conroe, Texas. Shellee, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Shellee, so you are a singer-songwriter. You're actually going to be having an event here in Concord coming up this Friday, July 28th at 8 p.m. at Red Hill Brewery. So we're really excited to have you out there for that. But tell our listeners a little bit about your music and maybe how you got your start and a little bit more about you.
Okay, let's see. About my music, I think probably that's always been my hardest question to answer, because people are like, what's your genre? And because since I started back with music because I took a long break, my focus has been so much on the songwriting and the song, it's been a little bit challenging to figure out a genre. So
Okay.
I will kind of classify it as singer-songwriter, and most people kind of think of that as like acoustic guitar, sleepy, you know, storytelling, that kind of
Right.
thing or whatever. And that would be accurate. That would be mildly accurate. But
All
I
right.
have people sometimes say, "Oh, I just love to listen to your music. It puts me in such a relaxed state. I just want to go to sleep." I'm like, "Oh, good, great.
That's the greatest compliment, right?
Thank you so much."
Your music puts me to sleep.
So you need to be
Music puts me to
on a
sleep.
Starbucks CD, I guess, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Is it true that
Sorry.
Nashville Times has named you the songbird of your generation?
The what?
The songbird of your generation.
Oh gosh, did they?
I don't know. We
Sounded
can
good, though.
start that rumor.
I would be really excited if they did. I would be like, "Let me see that in print."
Well, I'm sure we could Photoshop something for you.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, you know, genre is kind of folk storyteller, singer-songwriter, kind of just about my life. And I took a big long break of, you know, doing music. I went to Nashville to do the whole famous thing. I was kind of somewhere between Christian and country, and
Well, country is Christian. That's right.
country is Christian. And I went to Nashville and was like, "Oh, I don't really fit in here." And that was years ago. I didn't really fit into that music. So we came back to Houston, and I met a bunch of like drunken, you know, 20-year-old teenagers writing music that loved music. And no one in Nashville loved music when I was there making it. You know, like they all like did it to be, and at least the people I encountered, I should be careful what I say, but
Sure.
people I encountered did it to be famous. They did it because it was this dream and this career and all that. But I met a bunch of people here back in Texas when I moved back here that just loved to make music. And they were like, "Get better at your instrument, get better at your songwriting, come drink beer with us and play music." And
Nailed
so
it.
I did.
Yeah.
And I've made 4 records since then. So
Well, my daily prayer every night when I get down on my knees is, you know, Lord, touch my
Careful.
wife.
Careful.
Lord, keep my kids safe. And please get rid of Luke Bryan and Florida Georgia Line out of the country
yes,
music genre.
me too. We're the same person.
Good. So if we can get a prayer chain going, and I'm gonna send
Yeah. Let's
I'm
put a prayer request out.
I'm gonna send one of those prayer chain emails out and see if we can get that going for Florida Georgia Line and Luke Bryan and a couple other cats to retire.
That's funny.
I mean, there, you know, that music's for people. There are people who like it, so you know, you gotta make music for the people. So
People that like that music's un-American. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there.
I'm just gonna say I've jammed to those songs, at least Florida Georgia Line, maybe once or twice. I'm just saying,
I'm sure you know the words, don't you?
baby, your song.
I don't know, like, you know, people give me a hard time about, like, you know, for a long time I tried to be like this music purist and like I only listened to the Beatles and Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell and you know, I mean, all those things are true. I do love all those things. But then I had a teenage daughter come along and we just listen to whatever she wants to listen to on Spotify now. And there's a lot of good music out there that you might not think would be good, you know. So you just
Miley Cyrus's new hit,
yeah.
Malibu.
Yes.
I have no clue.
You don't want to.
Yeah.
I haven't actually heard that yet, but I am a Taylor Swift fan. I will say that unapologetically. So.
Well, that's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine too, just because I have a
Yeah.
13-year-old daughter too, and I've had to
It's
learn
not even
every.
guilty pleasure for me anymore. I'm just like, that girl is a badass businesswoman,
Yeah.
and she has risen to the top. And
She is
no one
making
can
it.
Deny it.
She is making it. If Taylor Swift happens to be listening to this podcast, I will ditch my wife if you're interested. So,
If you're interested,
I got to keep at least one sugar mom in.
I mean, you know, she's
better
a
watch
private
out.
jet. That's mine and JT's dream, private jet. So,
Yes.
There you
yes.
go.
You're my escape pod. You're my sugar mama if I need one.
yes, for when I get famous someday.
You're right. Oh, Shellee, you said you focus mainly on the songwriting. Do you have a specific songwriting process that you go through?
No, but I will say I've recently figured out that I have to have a guitar in my hand to really like complete a song. I work with a lot of teenagers, helping them with their songwriting process. And sometimes I'll be in the room with them working on a song, and I'll be like, you got to hand me the guitar, because if I can't like put my hands on there, it's hard for me to really work through the song. It didn't used to be like that, because I wrote mostly lyrics and I would collaborate with other people on music. But now that I play an instrument more, I mean, I played keys for a long time and wasn't very good at it. So when I picked up the guitar, it was kind of like, it sort of opened up a new process for writing for me. And I'm not even really good at that. I'm a songwriter, and I happen to play the guitar a little bit also, just to get through a show, you know. So
Sure.
But it helps my process a lot more to have the instrument. So
Nice. Out of the songs that you've written, what are some of the ones that are the most important or impactful for you personally?
well, the song about my daughter, which is called Conversations with Z, that's been probably the monumental song of of the records that I've made, just because a good portion of my demographic is moms or parents, you know, people who will come out to my shows, and they're oftentimes parents of kids my kids' ages, and that song's kind of grown up with her too, and it has a little amendment now at the end. It talks about her not wanting to wear makeup and stuff, and so as she's grown up, that's changed a little, though she wishes I wouldn't play it anymore. But so that's been there. I mean, that's been a big one. And then I have a new record coming out, and it's 5 songs of just sort of I call them meditations, but they're really not that vastly different from my other songs, just sort of evaluating life and the process I've been through. And I have a song called Only Just Begun on that record, and it's probably my favorite song I've ever written. And I don't think I ever said that about any other of my songs. It's kind of the culmination of a lot of growth and hard work to be a better human. So
Nice.
So
Cool.
I'm sure there's probably more, but those are the ones that stick out in my mind as kind of the important ones. So
Sure. So people are going to come to the show again, July 28th. What can they expect when they walk up the stairs at Red Hill Brewery and see you ready to go?
They can probably expect that I'll be wearing a kimono and yoga pants.
Nice.
I'll be in my kimono too. So.
I wear yoga pants and kimonos and sandals. That's what I do.
Well done.
Drinking green tea and
yes.
yeah, have a little lotus flower or something. I got you.
And I'll probably be like, namaste.
So if I yell, play Freebird, what will happen?
I'll probably be like, well, I'll probably do some version of namaste and flipping you off at the same time. It's possible.
That's the reaction I get everywhere. That's pretty.
I believe that about you already.
I just walk in the door and I get that, so it's probably pretty common.
Namaste, jerk.
But I tell a lot of stories with my songs. That's why we named this event Stories and Songs, because it's not just a house concert. It's not just a concert. It's not background music. It's definitely the stories behind the songs and people who like that kind of music, because that's not for everybody, you know. When I go to hear music, I connect better to live music if they give me a little glimpse into how the song got born, you know? Sure. And there's a lot of live music out there and a lot of things pulling for people's attention. So I think that if you can give them a slice of reality, it helps them get into the song a little bit better, you know?
Yeah, no doubt.
Something that connects it to them. And it's hey, here's my story, but here's the opening for you to get into if you want to come and,
Sure.
experience my story as it pertains to you. So
very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing you and your ginormous eyebrows. And I cannot wait for this event.
People ask me at least once a day if they're real. So
like 2 caterpillars trying to wrestle.
That is so true.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and can't wait to see you.
Freebird,
Right,
Freebird, Freebird.
Freebird, Freebird, giving you the bird. Bye.
See you later. Thanks, Joe.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Words cannot describe how awesome Robert and his team at Webmerized are. In our time of need, Robert came through for us and devoted more time than expected to help our organization develop our new website. It truly is a blessing to have an individual that can speak to the average person not in the IT world in a manner that can easily be understood. The process of working with his team was painless, and I look forward to working with them for future projects. Our website is spectacular, and I'm really proud of what was developed by Webmerized. Thanks, thanks, thanks. Don't take Stella H's word for it, and also Southern Fried Philosophies, but go out to webmerized.com, WEBMERIZED, or check out the sponsors link on our website. And if you mention the word Biggun in your order, you'll get 10% off. Check them out at webmerized.com for your web services needs.
These are the days of America, brother to brother, hand in hand. These are the days of America, walking together through the promised land.
Welcome back to the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. Today we have Christian Picciolini from Life After Hate. He is an Emmy Award-winning television producer, a speaker who has just got back from Switzerland, a published author, and a reformed extremist. I'll be honest with you, I'm going to let Christian kind of do the talking here because his accolades in his life is just astounding. An amazing testimony of his perseverance and just where he's been to where he is now. So welcome to the show, Christian.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
So first off, what were you doing in Switzerland?
You know, it was probably the most beautiful place I think I've ever seen with my own eyes. I was there for a conference, but the place where the conference was just near Montreux, Switzerland, if you've ever heard of the Montreux Jazz Festival.
Yep.
And it's this palace up in the middle of the Alps overlooking Lake Geneva, and it was just stunning. It was almost as if it wasn't reality. It was an amazing place to meet other people from all over the world, people from Israel and Palestine and Kosovo and Lebanon and just, Africa and all over the place, and realize that after sitting together for 9 days, it reaffirmed the idea that we have much more in common than we have different. And to hear some of the issues that were happening all across the world and places that are having civil wars or massacres, really, it also shows me how similar we are in that regard, that we, have problems everywhere, and we have these fundamental human needs to survive and support our families and be happy, and there are constant battles to do that, sometimes against people we don't even know why we're fighting.
Well, usually it's because someone tells us to go fight them. So tell me your amazing story. How did you start off? I mean, tell us about your teen years, where you kind of were in your teen years.
I think most people would be surprised to hear that I had a pretty relatively normal childhood. I came from a good family. My parents were Italian immigrants who came to the U.S. in the mid-1960s and had to work their butts off to really, make it in a hostile country towards immigrants. And that kept them away from the home quite a bit because they opened a small beauty shop on the south side of Chicago. And they were gone sometimes 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. And as a kid, growing up as a teenager, I felt really abandoned by them, even though looking back now and having my own children, I recognize that they were just doing their best to work hard and support the family. But, as a kid, as you're out there searching for your identity and your community and you're driven by your idealism and looking for your sense of purpose, I felt pretty marginalized. I was bullied and didn't have a lot of friends. And, even though I came from this good family, I had this kind of underlying trauma of feeling abandoned and feeling marginalized. And one day at 14 years old, I was standing in an alley, and it was 1987. I was smoking a joint, and this Firebird comes roaring down the alley, and this guy gets out of the car, and he comes up to me, and he grabs the joint from my mouth, and he looks me in the eyes, and he says, "Don't you know that that's what the capitalists and the communists and the Jews want you to do to keep you docile?" I didn't know what any of those things were at 14 years old, including the word docile. But,
right.
This was the first guy in my life, this first adult, because he was much older than me, who really kind of gave me a sense that there was a purpose and that what I was doing was wrong, not just because it was stupid, like my parents would say, or, you know, if they were worried about what somebody might say if they saw me. This guy gave me a reason, and I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. But I was struck with his charisma, and it just happens that this guy, his name was Clark Martel, was America's first neo-Nazi skinhead leader. And that alley that I was standing in, right on the corner of Union and Division Streets, no lie, those are the names of the streets. That's where the American neo-Nazi skinhead movement started, right on the southwest side of Chicago. And it changed my life forever.
So I guess from that, I guess you were after, I think I read on your biography that Chuck Martel actually went to prison, and you became the de facto leader of this organization, I guess, right? And then I guess you merged another organization together.
Yeah, after a couple of years, from the time I was 14 until maybe like 16 or 17, I learned the ropes. I learned how to recruit and how to photocopy flyers and how to, network with other groups that had started to pop up now across the country, even with Klan groups. We would correspond. This was before the internet, so we actually had to write letters back then to type them up.
You're right.
But we'd send them out to each other's PO boxes to communicate. That was our network. Once I had learned enough, Clark, unfortunately, he and a bunch of other skinheads from the crew had gone out one night with an idea to take revenge on a skinhead girl that had been part of the crew who they had seen standing at a bus stop with a black man. So they went to her apartment and they kicked in her door and they beat her until she almost died. Before they left, though, they painted a swastika on her wall with her own blood. And very luckily, she didn't die, of course, but just as lucky, they were arrested for this heinous crime. But that also changed my life because now suddenly, at 16 or 17 years old, there was this void in this really infamous organization. Because I'd been around the longest of everybody who was left, who wasn't arrested, and because I'd learned how to recruit and because I was ambitious, I saw it as an opportunity to step in and to lead, because I really, for most of my life, had felt very, very powerless. And this kind of manufactured community and identity really filled me with a sense of perceived power, although it was not real power. And I took control of this organization, which was America's first, and I shifted the focus to recruitment, and I started a white power band, one of America's first, to recruit young people through music.
Wow. One of the things you said at the beginning was, to most people's surprise, you came from a loving family. How important is that? Because usually we get the stereotype of, well, they come from like a one-parent home or, a no-parent home or whatever. Like, how important is it do you feel like that her parents are there, and how do you connect the parents with like a generation today? Like, how do you connect them? Because they feel and they seem like they're disconnected, so that you can give them an identity and a narrative, as you say.
That's a really great question, and certainly, a strong foundation is of utmost importance. And, it starts with kids from the day that they're born. We really need to, foster their empathy. And if they have passions as they grow up, we need to support them. Be careful that young people don't feel marginalized in a world where, frankly, we're all pointing the finger at each other. A lot of people feel like they're on this great divide being polarized, and it's true. I think it's, as far as the generation of parents and how they connect with the children of today, it's very difficult, because what they have and what we have that, maybe previous generations didn't have is the internet. And the internet really is a wonderful, amazing technological tool that makes life more efficient, and, is part of all these great discoveries that we're starting to do. but it can also, like every other great tool, can be abused. And because there's so many young people who are feeling marginalized, who are disenfranchised with what's happening in the world, they go to college and they can't afford it, or they get saddled with debt, and when they get out of school, they can't get a job. And this is if you're lucky enough to even get to school. And there's really nothing to believe in right now. We're in a really tumultuous time in our country's history where we're looking for guidance, and we're kind of failing at that pretty miserably. So young people who are idealistic are driven to want to change the world, but because they may be awkward, or because maybe they're not finding a lot of hope in real life, they turn to the internet. And on the internet, they're able to create an identity. They're able to find a community of people, and that community, once you're in, will develop that purpose for you. And there's so much propaganda online coming from the extreme right and neo-Nazis, and also the left, and also from every type of extremist group. It's really become a platform to put all these ideas out there, and if you step in it accidentally or on purpose, if you're looking for it, the algorithms that exist online now suddenly will just start to give you that information over and over and over. It's like when you go to Amazon and you buy Pampers diapers, it will recommend Huggies for you because it knows.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, social media is like that too. So if you start to go down a pattern of landing on some of these propaganda, what we're calling fake news websites these days that inflate, black on white crime statistics, or are completely putting out conspiracy theories, chances are good that that's what your feeds are going to continue to serve you. And if that's the only reality and the only information that you're being given, and you're already isolated from the world, so you don't have the opportunity to really see the truth, it could be a very dangerous place for vulnerable people. And I think every young person who's, searching and confused is vulnerable to that.
I think in our genetic makeup, we all seek some form of community. So I think you're right. That's, man, what a revelation it is as far as, the algorithms with the internet and the social media aspect. And just like I have a teenage girl now, 13 years old, and music is everything at that age. So I can also see how that would play into grabbing these kids. So.
Well, think about, when you were 13 years old, were you ever 13 years old? I don't know if you guys were ever 13 years old.
I sometimes I think I was just gifted from heaven, but my wife says I was born. So
my wife still says that I act like I'm 13.
There you go. Well, we're part of the same club then. But just imagine what it was like when you were 13. All you were worried about was fitting in. Are my ears too big? Are my clothes cool enough? Does my breath smell? A million things, and what we don't realize is that every person on earth is self-conscious about those same things. Yet there are some people who choose to become bullies about it because they're uncomfortable with themselves and they project their own pain on other people. And there are people who become the victims of that and end up becoming, potentially marginalized because of that type of, bullying. It's a tough world to be. It's always been a hard place to be a kid, but I think it's become a lot tougher because, they have access to all this information. And because there's so much information, it's hard to decipher what's real, what's fake, what's propaganda, what's parody, what's worth it, what's, clickbait. And we spend our lives kind of sifting through all this, stimulus that keeps just pouring at us. And after a while, we kind of become numb to it. And, if we're unlucky to go down a focused path of extremism and hopefully not violent extremism, it's really tough to get back out, because once you do that, you really have to leave everything else in your life that's important behind: your family, your friends, your hobbies, all the things in your life that you love go away. It's like drugs or joining a gang, or, it's no different than flying to Syria to join ISIS. You're trying to fill a hole that's missing, a pothole, I call it. Was it trauma? Was it abuse, addiction, poverty, lack of education? In my case, it was abandonment. How are you going to fill that pothole with something negative instead of something positive? And those recruiters are very good at feeding you the fear rhetoric and the negative so that you fall into those potholes and you lose your way.
Yeah.
Speaking of recruitment, give me the psychology that I guess yourself learned as far as recruiting.
Sure.
And because I think that's just an interesting aspect to how groups, will gravitate. I'm just gravitate and realize someone who basically has sucker on their head, or someone who's looking for something. 'Cause, I've been part of
Right.
groups and trying to find my identity with groups. So can you give me some psychology behind that?
Yeah, well, of course they're looking for vulnerable people that have perceived grievances or those potholes that I'm talking about. And, it doesn't start out as hateful. It starts out as bolstering your pride. For me, it started out with this guy kind of boosting my pride in my Italian heritage. He would come to me and say, you're a proud European. Your ancestors were great Roman warriors. They were great artists and thinkers, and that's something to be proud of. And I was, nothing wrong with being proud of the accomplishments of your ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
But then it turns into, later on down the road, all that pride that you have, there are certain people out there that would take that away from you if they could. And then you start to ask questions or start to wonder about who that might be. And then, they start to feed you the answers based on conspiracy theories of who that might be, whether it's, immigrants or blacks or Jews. And then it even evolves further than that. And then the fear rhetoric starts to ramp up, and they say, if you don't do something about those people that are trying to take something away from you, there will be a genocide on what you're proud of. It will go away. It'll disappear. And then suddenly you're faced with this fear of I can't let that happen. It's the only thing in my life that's important.
Sure.
And it's very good they're very good at finding the cracks, and a good recruiter will individualize their approach to every person and feed their ego. Because most people are pretty powerless, and then when you're brought into this group, you feel very powerful because you're surrounded by this community, and your identity is now, this hero that they've made you into, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to stay a part of that, to not lose that community and that identity, and your purpose is driving you. I always say that ideology doesn't make an extremist. That's not what comes first. It's that search for those three things: identity, community, and purpose. And the ideology is just a vehicle to be angry. It's just a tie that binds everybody together, and it gives you an excuse to go out and hate other people and blame the other, because you really hate yourself, because you're really unhappy with your own situation, and it's nobody else's fault that that's happening to you.
Wow, I think that's huge. It allows me to not join a hate group and also get suckered into another timeshare. I think they probably use the same tactics.
Yeah, you don't want to do a timeshare, especially if it's a hate group selling it.
Let's continue on with your story. So you're 16, leading the group. Tell us what happened after that part.
I spent 8 years from the time I was 14 years old until I was 22 as part of this movement. And I progressed into violence, into growing this ego, this fake power that I thought I had, and essentially using other people to get there. I made a lot of music and planted a lot of seeds in people that I'm still pulling the weeds out from today, 22 years after I've left. And I feel very responsible and a lot of shame for some of the decisions that I made, because I know how they affected other people to feed my own ego. Not only the people that I physically hurt and physically attacked, but also the people whose lives that I changed by bringing them into what I was doing. There are people who are no longer alive because of that, or have gone to prison, and now it's destroyed their lives, or I've destroyed a lot. As I was trying to build myself up, I destroyed not only other people, but I destroyed myself, and it was very, very difficult at that end of 8 years to leave. But I can tell you that there was a series of events that really woke me up, and it started with the birth of my son. When I was 19 years old, I met a girl, and we fell in love, and we got married, and we had our first child at 19 and our second at 21. Nice. And she wasn't a part of the movement. She hated it, actually, and I don't know how I convinced her to go out with me. I think it took a long time, but I was a different person when I was with her. And suddenly when I had my child, and I held him for the first time in the hospital, I just remember thinking about how I had lost. He reconnected me with my own innocence that I had lost. Because at 14 years old, I stopped being a kid. And I became this adult, almost driven by, hatred. I reconnected with my own innocence when I held my child, and suddenly it challenged my narrative. It challenged my identity. I wasn't the skinhead leader. I was a father. I wasn't, surrounded by a manufactured family. I was surrounded by the family that I created and loved genuinely. And my purpose was to be a good dad and a good husband and to keep my family safe. And it wasn't, to annihilate the other anymore. And it really started to create a confusion in me because I felt that those new feelings that I had were genuine. And it started to question what I was involved in. And, I made a deal with my wife at the time. I said, I'll pull out of the street. I'll stop doing the things that, are risky to protect the family, and I'll hand over the reins, to somebody else who wants it, but I'll still stay involved. I'll open a record store because all I knew was music at the time. And I said, I'll sell white power music, but I won't do anything that puts us in danger. And she agreed to that, begrudgingly. But I opened a record store to sell white power music that I was importing from Europe, and it did really well. It became 75% of my gross revenue at the store. So it's before the internet, so people were actually driving,
right.
From other states to come buy it.
Or just buying music.
Yeah. But I also got greedy. I also said, well, I don't want to just take money from my brothers and sisters. I'm going to take money from the enemy too. So I started to sell hip hop and punk rock and heavy metal, thinking, well, I'd probably never sell any of it anyway. But when the customers came in to buy that music, and they knew who I was, it was a small area of town. I had a really high profile. I didn't hide the fact that I was selling this music. People who came in to buy the hip hop and punk rock and metal were, they were black, or they were gay, or they were Jewish. And at first I was pretty standoffish with them. I was happy to take their money, but I wasn't interested in having much conversation with them. But they kept coming back. And every time they came back, they would treat me with more empathy and more compassion. And after a while, the conversations got to become very personal and very friendly. And it was that compassion that I received from the people that I least deserved it from, when I least deserved it, that really allowed me to humanize them and completely abandon what I had been doing for 8 years.
Wow.
I just couldn't reconcile the hate anymore, because now I had actually met people that I thought I hated. Whereas before, and this is the case for, 9.5 out of 10 racists, in the world, they've never met the people that they claim to hate. They've never had a meaningful interaction with them. So it's easy to hate somebody you don't know. It's easy to blame, the other for the problems that exist in your life without, reflecting if it's maybe you that is causing those problems. And now I had started to become surrounded by all these very loving, very compassionate, very empathetic people who could have broken my windows, punched me in the face, threatened my family, and they didn't. They took it on themselves to break me down with love, and it worked. And that's the same technique that I use today when I work with people to help them disengage from hateful ideologies and hate groups.
Wow. And so can you maybe go into what are you doing now? Like what you're leading an organization, Life After Hate.
Yeah.
And so maybe tell us a little bit about that organization.
Sure. Yeah. I co-founded Life After Hate in 2009. We became a nonprofit in 2011. And the whole goal of this organization, and we're all former extremists from, neo-Nazi or skinhead or Klan background. And our goal is to try and help people disengage from hate movements and hateful ideologies. And we don't do that by arguing with their ideology. We don't tell them that they're wrong. We don't, talk politics with them as much as possible. Instead, we really try to treat the human condition first. So, when I was talking about potholes earlier, what I do when I work with somebody is I really listen a lot, and I listen for what those potholes are. is it trauma? Is it abuse? Is it addiction? Is it mental illness? Is it abandonment or unemployment, whatever the case may be? And then my job becomes to fill those potholes, and I will pair them up with people who can help them do that. So job trainers, tattoo removal artists, tattoo removal services, or mental health professional. And once we work on that, and they start to get a better foundation of who they are. Once they get those skills, they find that they don't need to blame the other anymore, because now they have the skills to compete. But what I do to challenge the ideologies, I will actually immerse them in situations that challenge their narrative. So I may introduce a Holocaust denier to a Holocaust survivor, or a Klansman to a victim of Klan violence, or an Islamophobe with an imam, or a Muslim family to have dinner with them. And it's a safe, structured situation that I monitor and that I'm there for. And it's pretty amazing what happens when you can actually connect with the people that you think you hate. You usually walk out of there finding out that you have more similarities than you have differences, and that you really had no idea why you hated that person or those people to begin with. And it's a pretty magical experience to not ideologically argue, but rather to put them in a situation to feel. Because it's easy to, lob comments back and forth on the internet, or even, like over family dinner. But when you actually get a chance to meet that person who you don't know, but you've hated, and then suddenly you realize that there's no reason to hate them, and that was all based on fear and isolation, it's pretty magical. But we also, after that, know that it's very important that we need to provide another community for somebody who's being taken out of a community. So we have a private online support network where we have over 100 people, 100 formers that have gotten out, who are at various stages, all, very, very positive stages, who now act as kind of a support group, where, people can talk about anything, and sometimes for the first time, because they've never been able to talk about their past to anybody else. And it's been a huge support and a boost for people who are going through something like that, to be able to realize I'm not the only one on earth who has done this.
Sure. Yeah, one of the sayings that we have on the show is just common sense is a superpower. And it's amazing just talking to somebody that you may not, rub shoulders with every day, how you can maybe understand their point of view and their perspective of life. And just having a conversation isn't the end of the world of somebody that you may not, get along with. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we're not causing each other's problems. Some African American person in Detroit is not doing anything to affect me negatively. An immigrant who might be, in California. And once we realize that we're being pitted against each other by, racist systems and power structures, and essentially using us as pawns against each other, I think we're all going to feel a little bit ridiculous about that.
Sure.
That we really need each other to survive. Go do something with somebody that you think doesn't deserve to be talked to, and see how that changes your mind.
Also, tell us about Exit USA. You're the director of that too, so tell us a little more
Exit
about that.
USA is a program of Life After Hate, and that's our portal for people to reach out to us confidentially if they need help themselves, or if they know somebody who needs help. People can go to exitusa.org. It's a very simple one-page website with a contact form. Your information is confidential. We don't share it, and we respond very quickly. And if there's anybody who might be suffering out there, or who just has questions or maybe confusion about what they believe in, if they're in that movement or going down that road, maybe we can help. We understand, because we were those people, and we've all gotten in, we've all gotten out, and we're here to help other people know what we know.
I obviously, I'm not asking for statistics or anything like that, but do you notice that you mentioned before that once you pull someone out of this community of hate and you provide them now a community to talk to or to fill that void, regardless if it's education, jobs, whatever they need, is that helping the recidivity rate for someone that kind of comes out and then goes back to that lifestyle of hate? I mean, or what are you noticing there on the trends?
Most people that continue to talk to us, in the early stages usually end up going through with flying colors and end up, amazing people at the end. If we have a lot of people who contact us for the first time, say, I want to help, we respond and we never hear anything back from them. So we assume, that they have either gone back or have found their way out on their own. But I can tell you, that you really need that new community. You need help getting out of it. One, it's dangerous, right? It's hard to do on your own. Two, unless you have all the information you need to make up your mind after you've left, you may continue to have buyer's remorse about leaving, and you may want to go back because it's comfortable. It's because it's like addiction. It really is like addiction to drugs or alcohol. It's bad for you when you do it. You know how it makes you feel. It may make you feel good for a little while, but the minute, that good feeling goes away, you feel terrible. And when you're having problems in your life that are not even connected to that drug or to that alcohol, it makes you want to go back to that because it's a place of comfort. It's a place that you recognize, even if it's miserable, it's safe. At least you think it is. So, it's important to have credible messengers, people like us who have been there to be that bridge, to help people connect to, information and other people and in a safe way. But it's also important to have a community, that supports you. And what I don't like to see is people who are trying to get help for this being judged about their past, because that's not going to help anybody want to continue down a better path. It's not easy. It's not an easy road to go down, and there is going to be criticism, and people need to prove themselves and seek forgiveness and make amends. But even while people are doing that, hell, I get, even 22 years after I've left, after, the work that I've been doing for the last 15, I still get people that, will post on my timeline saying that, they don't believe me. And that I, for what I did, 30 years ago, I should be punished for it. That's their opinion, and then they're entitled to that. But I also know that what they're saying is coming out of a place of ignorance, not of a place of hate, and not out of a place of compassion. Because if they knew what I did and the people that I've worked with and all the amazing people that work at Life After Hate, they would probably think differently.
So you've led from fear, and you're leading from love now. What's the difference in you and how you're seeing people react to that? Because, media today,
Right.
is just all about fear. It's fear tactics to scare us, and you're doing it different out of love and compassion. What's the difference between those two?
Well, I think fear goes for really primal, understood feelings that people don't quite, have figured out, and they're used to manipulate. And I think love is a really natural instinct. Not to say that fear isn't helpful in certain situations, but manufactured fear is really detrimental. I always say that hatred is born of ignorance, fear is its father, and isolation is its mother. Yet we're born of empathy, and so we hope to return. So, I think we're all born with this sense of empathy. And when people sometimes tell me, like, oh, you haven't changed, and I say, well, maybe you're right. I am still that person I was born to be, but for 8 years, I learned a really hard lesson and went down a wrong path, and I think I'm back on track now, and I want to show other people the way, too. But love, if you lead with love, the results are always better. I've never seen a positive result that's been led through hate.
It's amazing. That's what we share in our family community also, is that just lead in love. That's all you got to do. I'm not asking you to be a prognosticator, but what are some things that you see on the horizon right now that you're fearful? Because, like last week I pulled up an article, 6,000 people attend a neo-Nazi concert over in Germany. I think it was in Weimar, I believe. But, 6,000 people, and I guess the mayor was just like, I can't stop this. It's happening. They raised, about €500,000.
Chris, I think you have a concert that you did for 4,000 people, like in 2001?
In Weimar, yeah. I did hear about that concert. I heard it was a big one, and I heard that there were, definitely some difficulties in trying to stop it, but I didn't know it was in Weimar.
Actually, it's in Theme. I had the article now, but it's actually in Themar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see things things are ramping up. There's a lot of fear rhetoric. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of unknown. I think leadership around the world is in question. And people, don't know what to do. And because of this fear, they're, going to the extremes on both the left and the right. It's happening in Europe where we're seeing far-right politicians being elected. We're seeing it in the United States of America as well. I don't know. A lot of people ask me, like, how did the Trump election, cause all these racists? And I said, no, they were always there. We just didn't see them. Now it's fashionable to kind of come out and talk about that, if, to shock people or to offend people, or to, maybe you just never had the courage to talk about your views before. And what happened, I think, on election day was a bucket of gasoline was kicked over, and it kind of ignited all those sparks that existed, and then it spread. So it has gotten bigger. I'm definitely seeing a lot of young people who normally stereotypically wouldn't be the ones who would join these types of groups now joining. So we're seeing, more privileged young white people, young white kids joining these movements because, it's easy. The internet makes it easy to belong to this community. And, they're angry. They have these perceived grievances of what's happening in the world, many of which, have been overblown or just simply don't exist, and some that may exist. And they're choosing a side because there really is no middle anymore. If you think about it, how many, maybe 10 years ago, we could say, there's people on the right, people on the left, and people in the middle. And I think the way our political discourse has been going lately is we've only got the left and the right. There really is no middle anymore, even though I think most of America wants to be in the middle. We're being forced to the edges. And that's a really dangerous place to be because, we're supposed to be able to have a civil discourse about things we disagree with. And if somebody is, causing violence, whether you're, a white extremist or whether you're, a jihadist or whether you're, a gang member, we need to deal with those issues, of course, but we can't do that by targeting communities. We have to do prevention because otherwise we're always going to be kind of digging ourselves out of the same hole and putting Band-Aids on it. We need to change our culture. Systemically, in a lot of ways, we're broken. Our education system is broken. Our healthcare system is broken. Our justice system is broken. And, until we start to fix those broken things to take care of the people who are at the very bottom, who need the help the most, the people in the middle are always going to suffer, and the people at the top are always going to gain.
Sure.
Until it's a just place for everybody to live in, there will be no justice. I really believe that. If we don't take care of the people, at the very bottom of the pyramid, then the only people that benefit are the people at the very top, the furthest away from it. So, I'm of the mindset where, everybody deserves opportunity, a fair opportunity, and we have to have an atmosphere of hope again. I think we're in a pretty hopeless state right now.
Yeah, I think the polarization with media and also going back to the social media has just hit warp speed, warp drive. I mean, you see the fractures in the right and you see the fractures in the left. You may have some, reasonably sounded mind conservative or someone who's reasonably sound liberal, but the polarization even in those groups, you're not too liberal enough here, you're not too conservative enough. It's so fractured now. You just don't even know what to think. So
the reasonable voices are being drowned out,
absolutely,
by the loudest voices on the edges. Yeah, and that's always the way it is. I mean, the extremists are always the loudest. Mm-hmm. They always have the least to say, but they're always, at the highest decibel, and it drowns out the reasonable voices that may take some work to get there, but it's it's common sense work. Whereas the extremists on all sides, are always looking for the easy solution. They're always looking to blame somebody else for the problems, and they've never been able to find the solution in a positive way because their tactics and their ideologies are broken.
Mm-hmm. By the way, we have reached out to extreme left groups and extreme right groups, and a lot of them won't come on. So it's kind of an irony thing.
Shocker.
They like to be the loudest voice.
On both sides of that fence, so you got two with one today.
That's great combo.
You had a really interesting story about speaking about political sides. Story about Trump, and it even went back to a girl that was posting neo-Nazi videos online. Can you share that story?
Yeah, if the one you're talking about is about an intervention that I did with a 17-year-old girl whose parents had contacted me to help because she was making racist videos, neo-Nazi videos, propaganda and recruitment type things, and Holocaust denial stuff. And she was getting pretty popular, and parents were rightfully concerned. They weren't happy with the path that this girl had chosen and saw it as very dangerous, and it started to affect the family, and they wanted to get her some help. So Dad reached out, and I talked to Dad and Mom for a while and got some information, and actually didn't talk to the girl for a couple months or a couple weeks until after I started work on this. But I took some information that the parents gave me. She was virtually dating this 23-year-old guy from Idaho. She had never met him or seen him in person, but they had communicated online. And I had a little bit of information, so I did my homework, and what I found was really disturbing. Not only was this guy not a 23-year-old from Idaho, but he was a 30-something-year-old from Moscow, Russia.
Wow.
And he was convincing young girls, underage girls, to be his, girl or his boyfriend, or he was going to be their boyfriend. And none of the girls, of course, knew about the other ones. And he would do that by getting compromising photos and videos from these girls, which he would then use to blackmail them. He was writing scripts for them to make these propaganda videos that were very pro-Trump, very neo-Nazi. And this was back in September of last year, back before, the only Russian thing we were talking about was, Rocky IV.
The latest James Bond movie. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, we just weren't talking about it. Nobody even had an idea. And what I found as I dug deeper was not only was this guy catfishing her by, stealing photos from other people online and changing them and passing them off as his own, but he was also connected to individuals, and he himself was doing this, but I had discovered hundreds of thousands of social media profiles that were these artificial intelligence driven chatbots that were essentially tweeting out links to fake news articles and propaganda, and were smart enough to be able to have conversations with people on their own through the artificial intelligence, very simple conversations to make them seem as if they were real. And there were hundreds of thousands of these, and they were all, very similar. They were all constantly pushing up propaganda, had avatars that were very, pro-Trump, make America great again. But they were pushing out, really neo-Nazi, very hateful, Holocaust denial stuff. And they were doing a really good job at spreading around this misinformation. And what was interesting, though, is over time, as I started to watch these accounts, they began to change very slowly, and they would become ISIS accounts, and then they would become Black Lives Matters accounts. And then they would become left-wing extremist accounts. And essentially what they were doing was just putting out information against all sides to try and pit them all against each other, just to cause this huge, upset in our political process and to sway trending topics. And I was actually able to find who this individual was, and I presented the information to the parents and to the girl, and she didn't believe me, of course. She was in love. And she leaked the information to the guy. And within an hour of me leaving this house, I had all my websites and all the domains that I host all hacked by Russian malware, and I started getting probably about a dozen death threats a day. It's tapered off a little bit, but I still do get them every day.
Holy cow.
It's been an interesting ride. And here we are talking about Russia when everybody's talking about Russia.
But it's a little bit different connections.
Wow.
I saw the rap love letter that I guess a young gentleman wrote you. So is that something common that you get?
I don't usually get rap love letters that are just completely like X-rated and very threatening. But I have gotten some really interesting things. People have threatened to behead me, and then when I've tempted them to do that, they've given me their address, so I could come visit them. That's pretty easy. They're not very smart. Yeah, it's interesting. When you do something like this, there are going to be people that don't agree with you, that think you're, a paid shill from the government or from, Jewish organizations like the ADL.
Why do they always jump to that?
Yeah, I've been called everything, and I've got a whole file that occasionally I'll go through to get a chuckle at. But I've been called a Mossad agent, an Israeli spy. I've been called an FBI informant. I've been called a Pakistani native whose real name is Abdullah bin Muhammad, who actually started ISIS 20 years ago. Little did they know ISIS has only been around for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. I've been called a pedophile. I've been called a rapist. I've been called, you name it. The latest thing, and I'll tell you this one because it was probably the most hilarious one, was that President Obama gave me $10 million personally, I might add, gave me $10 million to fund FEMA camps so that I could round up young white nationalists and put them in these camps.
That sounds about right.
If I had $10 million, I could think of a couple things to do with it. That would not be one of them. But,
move that cash to
I can't say that they're not creative. I mean, they definitely have good imaginations, but it gets tiring every once in a while.
Sure.
Man, I'm just blown away by this interview. I would love to spend another 10 hours with you because I think your story is absolutely amazing, and I think the organization is absolutely amazing. So, I appreciate it. Yeah, man.
For your listeners, if anybody wants to learn more, I've written a book about it. My book's called Romantic Violence: Memoirs of an American Skinhead. I write about kind of my journey getting recruited and what my life was like while I was in, but also what helped me out and some of the strategies that I actually use now to help other people. And it's pretty easy to find if you Google it.
And where's the best way to actually, while we're talking about that, where's the best way to purchase that book? I mean, I'm sure they can look on the big famous websites to directly help you out.
Amazon. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, guys. Amazon is probably the easiest way for people to find it. They can also go into their local bookstore and ask for it if they don't have it.
Or direct sell at www.christian Picciolini, Picciolini.com. And also,
you got it.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta make a living somehow, right? So,
no, I appreciate it.
But also, besides that website, you do have lifeafterhate.org. Also, exitusa.org, and that's the exitusa.org is the website for people can anonymously message in, and you guys will get a response back as far as finding a way out, or if you know someone who needs a way out, needs some type of support system and legs to do that. So,
you got it,
Christian. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, man. We didn't fry anything. I'm a little disappointed.
Well, don't worry. I would love to have you on for another time so we can actually fry.
Well, when I'm in Texas, you can count on it. I'll definitely come over and we'll make a feast of it.
North Carolina, but we do have good barbecue here.
North Carolina. Well, yeah. That's almost as good as Texas.
All right. And then you can also go out. Sorry, I was also going to say you can go out to lifeafterhate.org and actually donate now just directly on their website, so you can donate to that organization.
There's also several other good books on there by the other founders and other just people, I guess, that help have experienced this.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good people doing a lot of good work, and what's unfortunate, and I'm glad that you mentioned, that we are a nonprofit and that we do accept donations. Just a few weeks ago, we found out from the administration that a $400,000 grant that we won back in January was actually being rescinded because of our focus on white extremism not being a priority for them. So we can use all the help that we can get to continue our work, to be able to scale. Obviously, we've got our hands full. We're up to our gills and trying to help people, and we can always use some support to try and train some others to do this work to meet the demand. That would be appreciated.
Absolutely.
Sure, sounds good.
And also, if you have one more minute,
we play a game called 10 in 1 where we're going to ask you 10 completely ridiculous questions and see if you can get those answers in under a minute. Do you have time to play that game?
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right, here we go. All right, so Smashing Pumpkins or pumpkin pie?
I'm from Chicago, so Smashing Pumpkins.
Favorite vacation location?
Switzerland.
Okay. Last show that you binge watched.
Ray Donovan.
Blue Island or Thousand Island?
Thousand Island.
Favorite place to get a slice of pie?
Well, this is Chicago, so I'm going to go with pizza pie, and I would say Lou Malnati's.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Besides us, who has been your favorite interviewer?
Samantha B.
Oh, really?
Okay. DePaul University or Paul Pierce?
DePaul.
What's your favorite 80s band?
Well, I don't know if they're an 80s band, but I'll have to go with The Clash because that's when they were popular.
Good choice.
Okay. This one might be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but, well, it's completely tongue-in-cheek. Which Power Ranger would you choose, the white Power Ranger or the black Power Ranger?
Let's go with the gray Power Ranger.
Wrong answer. I was looking for pink. The pink Power Ranger is the answer. All right. And your last question is, everybody has a spirit animal. What is your spirit food?
Nutella.
Oh, nice. Well done, sir.
My daughter eats a jar of that at least.
We have not had a Nutella before, but that you nailed it. Good job, sir.
Awesome, man.
Hey, Christian, thanks once again.
My pleasure, guys.
And also, we'll have all of our show notes. We'll have all your links to your websites in there, too, for any of our listeners that missed it. And that's it.
Looking forward to it, man. Let me know what I can do to get the word out. And it was a real pleasure. You guys are a lot of fun.